So if we could all start the meeting, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First, I'd like to introduce our board members and city staff. Start to my left with Bob.
Bob Buscemi, I'm the city architect.
Cody Hendricks, planning technician.
Charlie Roberts, Freemanville Road.
Reed Casey, Bethany Road.
Jeff Dufresne, Summit Road.
Laura Weissong, Crooked Creek.
Lee Collins, Westbrook Road.
All right. First item on the agenda is for approval of the agenda, and I understand we're going to make a change to the agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're going to move new business. Parks and Rec wants to speak first, and they have a meeting they have to get to at 6:30, so we would like to move that to be the first item to be heard.
All right. Could somebody please make a motion to change the agenda?
I move to amend the agenda accordingly.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So our next item prior to that would be we need approval of our February meeting minutes. If somebody would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve February minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Jim, you are up.
Thank you all. My name is Jim Craig. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Milton. If you could switch to the PC that's here. This is a photo taken several years ago of the Bethwell Community Center. It was one of the very first projects that the city took on soon after its inception. It had fallen into disrepair. And on an extremely tight and small budget, it was renovated. Part of that renovation included some painting that was done. The building, that painting was done 11 years ago. We have a young man who is a Life Scout looking to earn his Eagle Scout, wants to do a service project here. And he had proposed painting not the top parts, the brown parts, because we don't want them going up on ladders, but the four walls, the porch, railings, the steps, and the fence here. It's a project that meets the requirements for an Eagle Scout project. And the only question that's come down is what color to paint it. And you could say, why not just paint it what it is? It turns out that currently the porch itself is brown and has the black on it, but the walls themselves are two different colors. The story told to me is they had donated paint, ran out of it, and someone else donated other paint. So I went to the Sherwin-Williams, and we had proposed that what we could do is repaint the walls in a form of yellow, soft yellow. We're not looking to make this like bright sunflower yellow. And then redo the window sills themselves in white. And I come before you to see if this would be in keeping with design standards of the city. And in doing so, I also have some swatches I brought up. These are the yellows, these are the whites, and if none of them meet with your approval, that's fine. We can come back over. The young man has got a crew together and hopes to work on this on the last weekend in March before people go away in spring break. So,
And just for the record, you mentioned the little rail fence.
sorry.
The rail fence? Yeah. Would that be just black or?
I didn't pick on brown. We'll have to get
Or,
brown.
or matching brown or something?
Or
Oh, okay, so the brown, the railings are gonna be brown,
Yes, the railings will be brown.
okay,
The porch and the steps will be black, and the fence, the two rail fence will be repainted black.
or brown.
Well, it's going to be black.
Oh, it is?
Well, it's not in this picture.
But it's currently black. Okay. So the yellow and the white is really the walls of the building.
The real issues of trying to.
How about a contrast between those two?
And I would like to take the moment, thank you for adjusting your schedule, also everyone back here for being local. Have any of you been to Citizens Government Academy?
No.
I'm teaching tonight.
All right.
So that's great.
You know, since we only meet monthly, I might make a recommendation that we ask Bob to meet with you and go out there and look at this fence and what it is now. It's not the most beautiful design colors right now. And let Bob take these out there in the sun, because it's going to be different in the sunlight, and get on site with you and let, my motion would be let the city architect pick those colors with you, and we'll entrust him to do something beautiful. And if it isn't, we can blame him. Rather than us pick colors in the dark in here in not good light for
Yeah.
picking paint colors.
Bob, when, isn't there a color palette that the city adopted when 2006, when branding and all?
In the code, they do have a guide of different colors.
Is that something that would be applicable here?
Yeah, it was really more for it told you what colors it has, but it was really to exclude some violets and purples and things that would be
Okay.
really kind of wacky. So these do fall in those categories, and then we would, but I think it would be a good idea to look at it in the sun and work with Jim and kind of blend
Plus,
it. and
you
get
need to
it
look at
to
these
work right.
colors on what is kind of around it too. And in the sun
look at it.
from the street, you know, with a teal playground back there, if that's still there. I personally don't love the black fence as much if you're going to repaint it. Because the brown would be a little softer with the brown fence. If you have a brown handrail and then a black fence, that's a little fighting each other a little bit, rather than letting the handrail and the fence. Oh, the handrail's black?
This picture is about 7 years old.
Yeah, it is blue.
We've had to rebuild the handrail once already. The handrail's currently black.
I'd ring in, I'd paint the handrail not black.
Yeah.
A black handrail's not what we want to do. I don't think on this little ranch, cute little house, black is not, I don't know how it got black, but that would be donated.
Right.
I need to, I'll donate some brown rather than have it black.
What's the
Looks
siding,
nicer in brown.
Jim? What's the siding?
It is cinder block.
Okay.
It's just, CMUs and stacked together.
Gotcha.
So if you're going to paint CMU, I'll make sure that we paint it with an elastomeric paint. That's really the paint that is applicable to a CMU wall.
We did work with Sherwin-Williams, they picked out the specific type of paint we need.
Yeah, it should be like an elastomeric. So we'll look at it.
And that'll last. That's
And it
good-
will last,
That's good
yeah.
stuff.
It's really good stuff, and it
Yeah.
will work. It's a little expensive, but it'll be good.
So I've got a motion to allow the city's architect to go on site in the sunlight with these color chips and advise you on not only the colors, but how the theming works with those colors. Especially for me, my motion is about the handrail not being black, but being more of a brown and more like this picture.
Yeah.
So that's my motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We're trying to get this project done, this young man, he's on the time frame. The scouts must complete all the requirements for the service project before they turn 18. And he turns 18 in April.
Ah,
Yeah, that's quick.
Welcome to adulthood.
Exactly.
Thank you very much,
There's your chips, Jim.
and thank you for the consideration.
Thank you.
So talk.
All right. So, okay. All right. Our next item on the agenda are demolition Our first demolition is H.G. Morris Demo, and the address is 2685 and 2695 Francis Road.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese from Reese and Associates doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia 30004. We're here tonight representing H.G. Morris Inc. and their application to obtain a demolition approval for the existing structures at 2685 and 2695 Francis Road. So, and I hope you've got everything packet, so I never know exactly what. If there's anything that you don't have, or that I'm seeing, I probably have it in my packet. So I'm hoping that you're looking at the site plan of these two individual lots, and it was a extended family estate. So you had probably a 70-year-old original little house that's to the east. It was remodeled, and there was an old abandoned house on the west side, and it was taken down 30 years ago. And I helped the family procure a moving permit to place that house that's there now, the larger yellow-sided house. So it was a move-in. They had a special needs child. It was kind of a situation that they needed, and we were helping them do that. So, and then they constructed a garage, and as you can see, since they owned it all, they didn't really care where property lines were. So, we are hoping to remove those structures, do away with non-compliance that exists now with encroachments from building setback lines and even property lines. So we've located the specimen protected trees, the structures. I think you can see there's no significant historical, cultural, or really any significance to the structures. The new owner is proposing to remove these and build back houses more compatible with City of Milton standards. So I've made them aware that they will need to clean the area up, build a septic tank with rock, and when they're through, it needs to look like a clean site. And after that, they will proceed to obtain building permits on these two lots for new residences. So it's kind of a fast track, but I'm saying probably a year we'll be looking at new construction on those two lots. So, any questions on the site plan? I see is up on, I've got pictures of the existing structures if you haven't seen them, anything on there. Otherwise, I will try to answer any questions you might have.
Historical significance. Are there any comments from the public for this particular demolition? No. Any questions from board members for the applicant? Yeah, I don't either. Then I think we are ready for a vote. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the demo at 2685, 2695 Francis Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Our second demo is Zoller Demo, 14200 Hopewell Road, and I believe that is yours as well.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese from Reese and Associates doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia 30004. I'm here tonight representing Mr. Adrian Zoller in his application to obtain a demolition permit for the existing residence and assorted outbuildings at the 48-acre parcel we purchased on Hopewell Road. He'd been in the Woods family for 70 or 80 years. Some of the barns and outbuildings are in great disrepair. The house is a brick residence that was remodeled in the early 80s, kind of just run-of-the-mill house of that period. And Mr. Zoller wants to build his dream house on this piece of property, and his significant other wanting to raise horses and try in there. So they purchased this nearly 50 acres, and they want it to be new dream. And for that to happen, we need to remove these structures. So I hope, once again, you've got pictures. We've located a specimen protection room, septic system, everything on there. And so, once again, if you've got any questions, the builder, they're aware that they need to clean the site up. And we will be submitting a building permit for new residents in the somewhat near future. So once again, if you have any questions, I will be glad to try to answer those. Otherwise, there's no really historical or cultural significance to the structure.
Are there any comments from the public for this particular item? Any questions from the board regarding this case? All right. I have no questions, so if somebody could please make a motion.
I move to accept the demolition of 14200 Hopewell Road.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Scott. All right, our next demolition item is Arnold Mill. The address is 12505 Arnold Mill Road.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Raheel Rather. I'm an attorney with Baker Hostetler. I'm representing Crabapple Investments LLC. They're the property owner of these two parcels. First, the 12505 Arnold Mill Road parcel, and then later, obviously, 85 Green Road. My client acquired these parcels back at the end of October in 2019. We have redevelopment plans in the works, hopefully for what is likely an office use. In connection with that, there's a single-family home located on this parcel and additional accessory improvements of the shed. We would like to seek your approval for the demolition permit to remove that single-family home accessory structures while leaving the driveway in place in case there's any machinery that needs to be placed there for redevelopment down the road. This home is not a historic structure, and in connection with the plans, we will, of course, perform the demolition according to the code, have the appropriate erosion and sediment control, silt fence to contain the demolition work, and any grassing and seeding that needs to be done to keep the property in its current state. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
So there are no immediate plans to rebuild?
Not at this moment. Our main concern here is on prior transactions where we've had single-family homes, and there's some little bit of time in between redevelopment. We worry for our property owners liability extending to having vacant homes on the parcels, as well as to the city and the county for potential for squatters and vandalism that may be unsightly to those homes.
Okay.
I'm a developer. I've been through that myself, and I totally understand, and you're right. It's a high risk if it's going to sit there for a year.
Yeah, I would say the only comment I would have is, depending on what the time frame is, to make sure that lot looks good and it's kept up, because that's always the downside of it as well. So as long as that happens, I think that makes sense. Any additional questions from the board for the applicant? Any comments from the public? No. So there's two separate items, so we would need to make a motion on each of those particular items. So if somebody would like to make a motion on the first item, then we can go ahead and handle the second.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the demo on 12505 Arnold Mill Road.
A second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, somebody make a motion for the 85 Green Road.
Make a motion to approve the demo on 85 Green Road.
All right, would somebody second?
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Our next item on the agenda are courtesy reviews. And courtesy reviews, the Design Review Board does not vote on these items. We provide input to the zoning board as far as what our input is. They will look at our input when they make their decisions. So there is no vote on this item, just input. So the item that is currently on the agenda is V20-06. The address is 14240 Birmingham Highway. If the applicant could come up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here to seek approval for a variance for a carport on the home that we purchased roughly 60 days ago at 14240 Birmingham Highway. I need a 16-foot variance from the road. So I believe I need to provide some color on the architectural features of the carport. So I'll provide you a little bit of color on that. The home was built in 1965, completely renovated in 2016. It was very well done, and it's got cedar shake and brick. The carport will have 6x6 posts wrapped in cedar shake, making the posts 7x7 when they are complete, and it will have cedar shake that matches the home as well as an architectural roof to match.
Can you just state, are you the homeowner?
I am
Okay, if you could state your name and address, we actually need that for the record. That's okay.
Miles Murphy, the homeowner of 14240 Birmingham Highway, Milton, Georgia 30004.
Great, thank you.
I have a question for Bob and you. The structure's really pretty. I don't love variances. So Bob, is it correct that it's a 16-foot variance? And
Well,
that-
it's actually a two-part variance. In this particular application, correct me if I'm wrong, they started to build the structure without a permit, and then the code enforcement gave them a stop work order. So it's a two-part variance. One is the 16-foot setback, and the other one is the code does not allow these accessory structures to be located in a front yard in front of the main dwelling. It is extremely visible from the roadway, and
So as a board member, this is and I'm saying this to staff, pretty sketchy package here, and we like to see the facts, and so there's not a lot of facts. The applicant hadn't even signed this. And there's a little 44-foot written here, but I didn't know if that was accurate or not. And it doesn't tell us how many feet back, and so your input is important here. So it is for sure. And how will we know with this package that it's got the cedar shakes on it? Because the picture doesn't show that. And remember, this isn't about you. It's in 3 years, or if there's a complaint, or this comes up, or another homeowner, and you don't put the cedar shakes on it, we've approved it or recommended to the zoning board what we think. So very sketchy, not a lot of facts. I think we need to tie down the facts on what he's asking for. I do really like the post and beam construction. I mean, we're going to do something here. It's very nice, and it's not real cheap looking. It's an expensive way to do it. So the 16 feet, and then what was the other variance that's,
Structure.
You have an
Yeah,
accessory
structure.
structure located in the front yard.
and that's nowhere in the package. So,
I know the house. It's a pretty house from the street. It is close to the road. I think they took the garage in a few years back. It's the problem, but it's the idea of the post and beam structure that it's not going to block the house from the street. You can see through it.
Yes, sir. It will not block the road. There's actually a car pad that was poured and permitted when the home was renovated. The structure will be built directly on top of the concrete structure. There will be no more concrete poured, and it will not extend any footprint of the home. To the right of my home is a floodplain, and a terrible one at that. To the left of my home is a well, as well. Directly behind that is a floodplain as well, and then I have a back parcel which further is a floodplain. The only other area I could put this would be directly in front of the home. This is off to the right, and it would create somewhat of a courtyard. I know that's somewhat of a feature that homes are going with it, somewhat of an L shape, but it is clearly off to the right. And when you're directly looking at it, it's probably 8 or 10 feet to the right of the house, so it does not block the front of the house.
so it's sitting on the pad. So the pad's already poured.
Yeah. They poured the pad and started to frame it out without a building permit.
Oh, it's not an old pad, it's a new pad,
That's right.
part of the new
Yeah, it's
construction.
already,
It's the pad was there when I bought the house. I did not pour the pad.
That's a little bit of value for me. I'm using he, but if the homeowner poured that pad, then I'm less, and I didn't know because it's such a sketchy package that the concrete was already poured, and you're sure you didn't pour it. And so my question was, and you're saying you can't move it, I'm a builder. You can't move it back and down a little bit and get in,
Get it next to the house.
just, it seems like you could move it a little bit.
put an accessory structure in a floodplain, can't
Really
you?
not.
No, but the floodplain
There's
is
not
not.
room on that lot. The house is so close to the street.
There is plenty of room on the right side of the house to put an extension. We've had other people prior to him coming in front of this board. We've had other applicants come in front of the board with these kind of open air structures to park, like carports. And I don't know if you remember them, but some of them were way in the back, and even the next door neighbor said, oh, we don't mind, but we said, no, we want the building to be next to the main structure, and doesn't have to be attached, but it certainly could be close to and replicate more of that structure. My feeling is to stay consistent with that message, and because this is sitting in the front yard as you're driving by, and it's just not going to have that barn-like character. It's going to look like an accessory structure that can house anything.
Yeah.
I mean, once we give it to them, it doesn't have to have an automobile. They could store anything in there. It's not just for automobiles. And we had others that have come before the same request, and we've asked them, and then they did reciprocate and say, okay, we won't build it there. If you remember, we had others that started to build and then converted them into play sets and things like that, not to lose them. This is very prominent in the front yard.
I would compare it to
Stands for-
Mayfield at Freemanville, and there's the old house with a carport right out front, and it's got junk cars in it, and it's really an ugly mess right now.
Yeah, I think so.
So what happens if this was an enclosed structure and it looked like a barn?
Yeah, it's still an accessory structure and is not allowed in the front yard. It would be a detached structure, and it's encroaching into the setbacks as well. So that's a clear indication that it's going to be very close to the line of the right of way and
Seeing if we
have a
could
much greater visual impact.
get to some help so we don't have a better way if it's fully enclosed and it looks like a barn in the front yard. You can't put a barn in the front yard.
No.
You can't.
No, the
Well, you
problem
can put
is
a barn in the front yard if you have the right setbacks, if it's
Yeah.
housing livestock,
but-
but it's not an accessory structure as far as a garage.
Yeah, okay.
you know.
I was trying to help you there, but
And it's somewhat close to the road, so if you can see that, then we'd have to do,
It's very close, visually.
Yeah.
I don't, not to go out there with a ruler and all, I just driving down the road when I went to look at the site, to me, it's a very big visual impact on the right-of-way. And I think we could work with the applicant. I know he started construction, and that's, again, not staff's responsibility, but we could probably move the structure closer to the main residence, get this thing to look architecturally more pleasing, integrate it with the building better, closer, and then eliminate all of these needs.
Miles,
of
it really
variances.
would look better on the side, wouldn't it? I mean, it'd improve the value of the house on the side.
Yeah.
Potentially, but the issue is, and I didn't find this out until I moved into the home, it has a massive flooding issue. I would actually argue that the entire house is built on a floodplain. I have a well that I have opened up with an extremely high water table. So the piece of property that you're speaking of to the right of the pre-existing garage floods. I mean, it's constantly, it would be an issue. With the pre-existing pad built there, my intent was to keep the footprint of everything the same. And like I said, in my opinion, it would be very well done. I'm in the business. I flip 30 to 40 homes a month. This is my personal residence. It would be done to the nines, and I don't have any junk vehicles or anything like that. But I definitely understand the concern. There also is a cost prohibitive issue here in terms of building a full-fledged garage attached to the home, pouring concrete, et cetera, et cetera. But I definitely understand the issue with asking for 16 feet and for an accessory structure in the front yard. Again, my aim was for everyone to understand that there is no other place for it to go, but now I understand that we are potentially looking at bringing in a lot of fill dirt, lifting up the right side of the property, grading, and new, I believe Cody's been in the property and you've seen it. I'm a little surprised.
Well, before we can determine where the floodplain is currently located at, we have to get with the city engineer to determine exactly how far it is to the house when the FEMA came out there and assessed it. But if there's an alternative, we can meet. If you want to come in and meet with city staff, we can see if there's any kind of alternatives, because we can see if there is any other alternatives to this. But if there's not, then we can work with what we can have, if that would help.
how do you feel if we are thinking this way? It's only going to be probably harder as you move forward to the zoning review board or variance. So what do you think about us tabling this for 30 days and you working with the staff and the architect and trying to find and listening to Bob, who's like magic at solving problems, and getting this all figured out before we maybe ring in that we're against it, which is, I think, where we're headed. And if we table it here for 30 days, you come back to us, and then you'll be headed to a better result maybe down the road. I'd make a motion that,
Well, we don't need a motion.
Oh, that's
on
right.
this,
You don't
but-
need a motion, but
but
you would
one-
have to still.
even to table it or to postpone it?
The applicant would still have to show up at the BZA just to ask for a deferral.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Is that the only one?
Correct.
Is that the only
So-
one? Oh, so I think we can do it then.
So Miles, after this, I'll get in contact with you if you wish to go that route. But if the board wishes to make that comment, I can make it in the record saying the board advises the applicant to work with staff, defer it for 30 days, and come back in April. Is that?
Yeah.
And I think we
Are we
set
all
up
in agreement?
the BZA asked us to set it up where if it's the only case being heard,
Yeah.
that's a deferral, then we could just do it administrative deferral. You don't have to show up that night. We'll just show up the next month. Right? Is it the only case?
Yes. So Miles, going forward, we'll talk tomorrow on how you want to approach it. But the board, you're okay with that
Yes.
comment? Miles, you're okay with that comment?
Yeah, the one other piece of advice is whatever you end up with, I would suggest that you get approval from your neighbors about doing that, because they will ask you if your neighbors are approving of that. So,
Can you help me understand the letters? I believe I was waiting on the letters to be sent out before I approach my neighbors. So the city sends out neighbors 300 feet around the surrounding properties. You can take it upon yourself to go to your next door, to your adjacent property owners, and pretty much tell them your scope of work, kind of what you plan on doing. The city doesn't do that, but we highly recommend you go out and do that. It's just a courtesy, neighborly thing, but it's not required. It's just highly recommended.
Miles, when this comes back, I was headed somewhere, so let me understand for the next time. It's too close, that's a problem. It's open, that's a big worry for me. If it got closed in, it doesn't change. If it's open or closed, it's still in the front yard, that's a problem. And if it's too close, that's a problem. You'd probably get my support, maybe, if it was closed in. You said it's a cost issue. I would get rid of that post and beam, close it in. You're going to save a lot of money getting rid of those 6x6s. And I'm getting ready to build 2 of these on Freemanville at my barn, one in the front and one in the back. So I'm costing them right now. And then I think the worst idea you can do is put all those cedar shakes on them, because I loved cedar shakes in the 90s, and I tore them all off 15, 20 years later because they rotted. And so you'd save a fortune, and they're going to rot and look terrible anyway, and you or whoever you sell it to in the future is going to change those shakes out anyway. And you really don't have my support in any of this unless it's closed in, and then we know we're just going to see a pretty structure that's 16 feet too close if everybody else, I mean, you got to get all of these folks and the BZA. But you got so many problems here: floodplain, open structure. You got enough 6 no's, so you need to find some yeses.
Couldn't you just attach it to the house, Bob?
We've had others that weren't physically attached to the house, where they just placed it very close to the house, like a
Well, I
1
know,
foot
but
or
this
2
is
foot
what,
offset.
15 feet from the house?
The corner of the carport would probably be, I mean, it's less than that. Like I said, it's
10 feet.
Making an L. If you're talking about
Right,
a house
so-
like this, if you're talking about moving this here, is that what you're talking about? Kind of like maybe in one straight line?
Well, just attaching it to the
I-
house.
I
You
really
talking
think,
about an A?
do a
really think
breezeway.
if I was to
Yeah.
do a breezeway and
Yeah.
move it within, out of the setback line, we can eliminate all your variances, and you don't have to ask for any permission. We just give it to you, and still subject to architectural review. We'd make sure it meets the standards of Milton, and you can just eliminate the variance request altogether. And this way,
Be your
you just
cheapest
build
way
it
to
as of
go.
right. You don't have to ask for any permission or anything.
And you got a nicer garage, and you're spending all that money for those 6x6s,
Right,
and then you're still out in the wind and the rain, and we're worrying about what you got in there,
yeah.
because we got to look at it.
I mean, why don't you come in, work with us, and I think I can eliminate all your variance requests and everything. It's just I can't help you with what you've got built already. But
Do we need to make a recommendation?
We
our
are,
Have we made it?
recommendation would
It's
be
already
to
got it.
defer
Though
30
the-
days, or to at least work with staff, right?
Or you want to make that?
well, I do want to make sure there's no public comment. Does anyone from the public want to comment on this particular case? Okay. So, yeah, Cody already has the recommendation that basically they're going to go out, look at with the applicant and see what they can come up with, and then they're going to do a deferral and come back. Or not, if it works out the other way.
Miles, good luck.
Thank you.
Bob's pretty easy. He barks, but he's real soft.
I'll help you out. I think this one is
All right.
the middle here, and then the rest of the year, and it'll all work.
Okay, we are moving into final reviews. This is for, these are items we will vote on for final design review that are getting ready to be constructed. So the first item is Ashford Gardeners Building, 16040 Birmingham Highway.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese from Reese Associates, who is 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia. I'm here with George Whittle. I'm sure you remember 2 or 3 months back, we were here before you to go through the special use permit process for Ashford Gardeners. They've been in business at the same place for 20 years. There before the creation of Milton, kind of fell through the cracks as far as use permit. We've got all that straightened out. And I hope you remember we were showing a barn structure on the property. And it was approved by all the different levels, all the way up through mayor and city council, for the exact structure that we're now bringing before you, with a little more detail, for final approval of this structure.
So, Scott, do you just so the board knows, I mean, there was a lot of variances that were requested. Some of them were for the building materials, being metal panel versus board and batten and things like that. So the mayor and council did approve that. So I just want you to know that they approved some of the variances for the building materials that they're showing here. Still subject to your review, but they did approve a metal panel.
Okay, that was going to be my concern. And so this
Right?
metal
Is that correct, Scott?
panel, the metal panel and this structure has been approved.
Well, yeah, right? It was the variances, if I remember, I wasn't there, but I remember coming in and that one of the variances was to have a metal panel. And one of the variances was to keep the structure here. So,
We need to tell.
Understand that this structure is not visible from the road. It's behind the building used as the office, and there's a privacy fence and a
right.
fair amount of existing buffering foliage, and part of the use permit and variances was we provided a planting plan that was to be by a licensed landscape architect and reviewed by the city arborist to enhance the buffering of this structure.
But what's important to me is, again, this is already approved, right?
Well, yeah, the council did approve it, and they did approve the building materials through the approval of the variances from what the code would require normally these building materials to be. With that said, I mean, it's still subject to DRB review and approval. I mean, if you get a variance that says you're allowed to use a metal panel, this is what they showed the council, and they did approve the variance on that. But again, it is subject to your review and approval.
I mean,
So, Scott, we understand it's behind the others, but I would never approve this if it's not already approved, because it's just not where we want to be architecturally. It may function for your business, but architecturally, if I propose this on my property, I'd get my head torn off.
I'm going to disagree.
Why don't you?
Just because this is a typical structure that existed in the agricultural heyday of the city of Milton, which many of our residents still want. So if you were proposing a hay barn on your property on Freemanville Road, it would be completely in keeping for this to be. And if you ride into more rural sections out the north end of the county, you'll find this structure repeated several times for tractors and hay storage on the active horse farms. And that's what
I'm just going to disagree with you, and I'm in tune with my neighbors, and they would throw a fit if I was trying to do this on my property. And Milton's come a long way since the hay barn days, and that's what we're charged with, is looking at architecture, and that's what I'm doing. And this
knowing that fact, we brought this same structure before you guys and all the boards that went before, including the mayor and council, and it was approved for this structure.
When it came before us, we didn't see this structure, or I didn't anyway. We didn't see this. We saw a request for the barn, which I supported, and I said, it's down there. I drove to the property because I was really concerned about this one, and stood there and looked at it and went, wow, this is really nice. I had 4 calls about not wanting more commercial out here. I took your same position that this has been here. This was rural. This was Milton. I kind of like some Milton old stuff around. I sure would rather have this than a new subdivision. So I supported you, but seeing the metal joists and no siding, where I was going to head is we don't know what happens in the years ahead. Every month, case after case after case of, well, it was there and now we got to live with it. The most phone calls I get from residents are about, this is terrible, but it was already there. I would get to where I was more comfortable if you'd put this approved metal siding on the front facing the street, even though you can't see it from the street. And if you closed in one more side, I would be happier with it because it's not so leggy. There's no brackets. There's no architecture. Tim was here tonight, and he'd be telling you there's no architecture here. There's no attempt to do anything in 2020 that fits in Milton. Although I'm happy with the historical value of your business there, even though a bunch of people called me when you came last time, going, you got to deny you can't have more commercial. I went out there, I liked it. You got a good business there, it fits in. But I'd like more siding on this building so the leggy, and it just needs some help.
What's the business?
It's a landscape business.
Okay.
So, and I think you need to go back through the record because it was approved exactly like this, and it's detailed as a one-sided open structure.
And Bob, if that's the case, I'm going to say let's move on because we don't have any say-so. If Scott is right, then he's right. And if it's the council approved it, there are bosses that overrides anything I've got to say.
That's true.
I think the council approves the location of the building. They approved the variance for the building material being metal wall material, metal rib. But if they approved the whole building, it wouldn't be before you tonight. I mean, why would it need DRB approval if they already approved it? If you're saying to me, Bob, if they approved it, then we don't need to approve it, then why is it here?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm just being logical. It's here because it is subject to DRB review and approval. Although you can't say to them, put wood siding on the building because he got a variance to put metal.
Right.
Okay.
So that is there, and I don't think you're objecting to the metal.
No.
You're saying
Well, it's been
that
approved.
needs-
I would object to it,
You're
but
saying it
it's
needs
been
some more
approved.
detailing.
My only, my comment on the metal would be to ensure that it's high quality, because if it's not, we know what happens down the road. It starts looking very bad, and we definitely don't want to go there, so.
But we can't define the word high quality legally. He can put anything he wants on there, and that's not our opinion to say high quality, because legally we
Well,
can't enforce
actually, we
that.
can. We've done it before. We've
life.
told under construction what we wanted on there, what grade.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
if you give them a grade, then yes, but what you
Yeah,
just
it's
said is
different.
not.
Like Charlie's saying, and what you're saying is, there's different grades.
There are.
There's thinner grades and thicker grades, there's pre-finishes, so we could ask for a thicker grade metal with a,
Pre-finish, correct.
Okay, make
kind of
those motions are
things, and-
enforceable.
And if you're looking for more detail, and we could add some more detail to it, I don't think that would go against what the council approved.
I guess
They
I'm-
approved the location and the building variances for these certain materials, but it is still subject to your overall review. And the drive-through, they did tell them it was going to be a drive-through. I remember they said they didn't want to put doors. They just wanted it to be a drive-through. So that's something that was discussed at council, so I wouldn't want to go against any of that.
I think if you're gonna read
You know.
through, you're gonna find that I'm not making any of this up. We
Yeah.
went into great detail because we had a budget and we went through and we added a picture that shows this, same construction and There are no windows, no doors, all of that were variances of that project. I think what happens is there is no, it automatically triggers back to you. No one, I mean, it always comes back for design review board, even though technically it may have been approved. It's just, there's no process that says, okay, it was rubber stamped and it doesn't go back through. I think
Well,
that was,
But I don't think Mr. Roberts is asking for anything that would be contrary to what the council gave you a variance for.
okay.
I don't think that's what he's saying. He's saying that he wants a little bit more detail to this sticky-looking, stringy-looking, how did you describe it?
Shaky.
Shaky-looking kind of pole structure.
Yeah.
And is there a way to kind of base it a little bit to give it some more up on top?
Yeah.
It still could be open and not have doors, but
Yeah.
it could have some beams going across the top, which I think you're going to need anyway. Just when you go to build it, you're going to need some sort of structure to hold up the roof. So I'm not so sure this is really being shown correctly on its drawing,
I'd
but
like to make a comment. George Whittle, 1604 Birmingham Highway. So just two things. You said that the side facing the street is actually the enclosed side.
So it's facing, the end is facing the street?
The end cap is facing the back of the back of the building.
It's what you see from the road.
And then there's
Okay.
actually, I got the board to show landscape.
And I actually do remember that.
So
So you are correct.
Amazing.
It doesn't do me any favors to tell you guys things.
It
We're
does
not-
not.
Hey, Scott, we're not saying that. I'm just here, wait a minute. Let's get on the record here. I'm just one vote, but she may know you, she may remember that, I don't. And I want to be,
You may not have been on the board at that time.
I was. And that's why we have 7 people discussing this, and that's why it's a concern. I'm on this board because I'm concerned about architecture being great in Milton, period. And so if I have questions, I want to talk about them until I'm comfortable. And so if that end is facing, that's better. So let's look at the man's plan, because this helps.
and then further, so the elevation change from here to here, the slope is going downhill. So you might see the peak of the building, but other than that, you're not going to see anything. And then further, we have landscapes in front of the enclosed side of it, right? So that's was the whole purpose that we talked about it during.
When you talk about drive-through, then how do you drive? What's your drive-through mean?
So
Go right through here.
the reason that the structure was, in the ordinance on special use, you're limited on how many commercial vehicles can be parked outside. So the whole reason for the structure was to take the commercial vehicles that have Ashford Gardners on the side and park them under this structure. Well, then we were between a rock and a hard place because we needed the lesser of the two evils was to construct a non-conforming structure to house the commercial vehicles in.
So this building then is not for landscape materials, or it's for vehicles.
Yes, to park the commercial vehicles,
Okay.
where they can pull in and pull out.
Which makes sense
To
then,
meet the ordinance requirements of not having structure.
which makes sense then with these bays, so you're really pulling vehicles through each leg.
Instead of trying to back in and all that.
So they pull in on one side and pull out on the other.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and I'm happier seeing it's turned this way with a solid end toward the street. So I'm feeling better about what I'm hearing.
I never know what you guys remember or what you don't.
I do
and
remember.
What you have in your
That's why we ask questions, and then you answer them, and then we're educated.
So let me ask you this, Scott, so maybe we can address this tonight. Charlie's point is that you just have these little 4x4, 6x6 posts coming down. Is there any way to make them beefier or to put maybe a beam going across the top so that this way it just doesn't look so thin and it starts to add a little character to it and the board
Hey,
can
Scott,
get behind it?
can the owner talk to us about and listen to the city architecture? You're getting ready to make a reason why you can't. I'd like for you to listen to the architect and find a reason you can. So we can end this discussion and move on. Now,
Maybe
listen to
it's a quick
Bob,
fix.
because he's
You put
really
some
good at
wood
this.
up there and
It is a standard design structure that you have the full packet of how it is a prefab truss structure that, and those, each one of those metal trusses rests on a either 6x6 or 8x8 post. Clearance is going to be a certain, because we promised council height restrictions, and they need to be able to pull these commercial trucks under. So, I mean, everything, you change one domino, it kicks another domino.
All right, so let me interrupt. I'm a builder, and everything you just said has nothing to do with some architecture. That beam can still be there, the load bearing can still be there, the vehicles can pull in. We're talking about stick-on architecture to give it some higher level of architecture. The beam doesn't, Scott, the beam doesn't change. So you went through the whole beam thing. I understand the beam. It's not going anywhere, and it's sitting up underneath there because this rendering is inaccurate. You don't see the beam at the top, so it must be tucked under the roof. So I question that, whether this drawing really is accurate, because we should be seeing that beam hanging down.
I'm saying, I think if the beam was there,
If you look at the details, go into there's some other details that show different profiles, and it shows how the makeup is all done.
All right, well, I only have this, and there's no beam on my drawings. There is no beam up underneath here, and everything he just talked about is not showing in these renderings. And I can only deal with the drawings you give me.
Well, the reason why is because the trusses, the cross boards are the ones that are holding it all together now. They got steel braces going across all
so
of them.
here, come here. If you were to make these like, say, 8x8s, and then you were to put like a beam going across the top here, so that it looks a little bit more based in there.
But the issue with that is gonna be our height then.
Sure,
Because
well, you have
from
what,
here to
four-
here
you
is
have-
14 feet, but then if
Yeah.
you do that, then we're gonna be 12, and it's gonna hit our truck.
If you put a,
I mean, we could come down maybe 6 inches, but, I mean, we can wrap these beams in wood.
yeah, maybe you can wrap these, make them look a little thicker, and then maybe you put like a 2x12 going across. It'll make it too short.
That's what makes
Developers
it too
today,
short. I mean, we could put,
Did they limit you
intense pressure on growth.
on the
And
council?
it's coming harder and faster. You set a
Or
precedent,
they limited you on
everybody's
the
gonna
peak?
get what you said.
Oh, the neighbors left him in the peak? So is there any way we could put a bracket here so that Charlie thinks that it's, I'm just trying to get what he wants so he can get approved tonight. We could put brackets or something so that it looks like it's kind of, you might want that anyway, just for stability, but I'm just saying, then we could say, Charlie, we put some things on here to make it look a little bit better, you know what I mean?
We don't
Oh,
want
I
it
support
difficult,
that.
but
And
we
they
also, it has to be functional.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Oh,
we could probably dress up some
Now we're
corners.
just talking about architecture.
yeah, that's not a big deal. The only thing I'm worried about,
So
like I
that's-
said,
trying to get it approved for you, right?
but there's no problem, there's nothing.
That's what I'm saying, we'd have to put, okay, but if we would've put like a small board up here and then put a bracket, yeah, you only.
But it's gonna have to be like 2x6 or something.
But it'd be enough to put a bracket on.
Yeah, I mean,
You don't have
How
enough
do you know,
room.
are these bays?
well,
See,
from
they're
here
set.
to here is 14,
I know, but this width here has to,
12 foot.
My issue is they voted on the
I
design
mean, it's gonna be tight.
when it was supposed to just be the zoning
Well,
approval.
the difference between the two by
That's the
six.
problem I have, and I agree with you.
About an inch and a half.
I just don't
Somewhere the
want,
process broke down.
things are so valuable out here. Everybody in the world's gonna be here, cutting up every piece of ground we got.
They're hard here.
that's part,
I mean, we could wrap one ladder once.
I agree.
and make that look beefy.
I'm just saying, let's make it look like architecture.
Something
Yeah.
here and
And it's
maybe
just
on the side
constant
here. you know,
frustration.
something
We
going
just
across
gotta
it.
set on these,
So, you know, it looks like it's
kind of
enclosed.
like, look at what we did to Miles. I mean, sweet guy, he listened to us, he's
Yeah,
going
but-
back to work on it. He'll get what he needs, but he's gonna have to close it in or move it. Because why would we put it right on the road and have a carport?
You can't do it.
But whatever we can't, if he does that, then everybody in Milton can do the same thing. under the constitutional rights they have.
Well, I'm already in a fight working with Prop about the house next to me. That they need to get permits. I said, so I'm getting ready to do my stuff, so I don't have to get a permit? Just need to get out here and get this fixed. So I'm telling you, so, yeah, I mean, but that is the thing. You let one person not do it. Yes, I would agree.
So Charlie, maybe sorry for that side note there, but we were showing him some details, and I think we can meet with the applicant and absolutely put some extra detailing on the building and still meet his criteria for functionality then we could look at what the mayor and council had approved specifically, just to make sure that we're not violating any of their requirements, so we kind of relive that.
I know
And we can kind of get it.
Come off as difficult because I have a strict, we went through, it was like 16 variances that we went through. And the neighbors were concerned about the peak height of the structure that they didn't want to see. And we had these box trucks that we had to pull through that we had to have a certain clearance. And we assured mayor and council that we would lower the building as low as we possibly could to allow the functionality.
All right, Scott, we understand all that. Let's see if we're at a place where Cody and Bob can look at what the council said, look at what, I'm not going to speak for the board, I've said, and if he is magic at getting Milton in here, I love your business. I absolutely was for all the variances. Actually, I had one of the council members call me about this case before it went to council. And I said, it's a cute little business out there. It kind of fits 7 acre, and it's really neat little old Milton, and I think it's great. And I got some calls from homeowners and a council member about it. And so I'm real for your business. I just want Bob to make this look more, and I want to close, Scott. What we did in Milton, or what was done in Milton 5 or 10 years ago, or Fulton County, Milton homeowners and taxpayers have said, here's what we want to the council. The council's told us that when they put us on the board, and we're very touchy, because if we do this for you, we've set a precedent. And anybody can come in and say, you did it for that landscape guy. Why do I have to put brackets? You sat and listened to the man that was just before you, and he's having to go back and work on it. We've got to set a standard, and we've got to be at a level we want to be at in Milton. And if this is allowed to happen for you with no architecture on it, then we've said, hey, everybody else can do the same. I'm all about whatever you get, everybody else should get.
All right, so.
Bob, how do you feel about that point?
I think I can probably work with the applicant.
Okay.
If so, the board so
All right.
desires to incorporate those ideas.
Are we going to bring it back, or what are we going to do?
That's up to the board.
Well, all right, so before I go any further, are there any comments from the public on this particular case? No. Are there any other questions from the board for the applicant regarding this? Okay, so I do take agreement with Charlie on some of these items as well. I do think we have to have some sort of standard. I completely like your business. I'm all for business. I have my own business, so I'm all about having more business here in Milton. So we want to find a way to do it and make it so that you're still profitable. So we will figure that out. So I think then probably the right way to go, Bob, is do we want to come back on this, or do we want to just give you the design and we'll approve it with your modifications?
I'd like to see it come back. I'd like to see it come back. This is an important standard.
Coming back.
We've
yeah,
had a lot
okay.
of discussion, and I'd like to see it come back.
All right, so I'm getting nods from the rest of the board. So I think then what I need is a motion that we specify that Bob is going to work with the applicant. We will defer a final vote for 30 days and come back on the next meeting. All right, so if somebody could make that motion for me, that would be great.
I'd make a motion that the case concerning Ashford Gardeners be postponed a month while the applicant worked with the city architect, and then come back to present it to us when both of you are happy and we've accomplished the city's goals.
I second that.
We get some feedback based on what you're, what y'all wanting to see, so that, are you all gonna talk and then we talk, or how does it work, so that we don't go, I go talk to them?
No, we're very, Bob does a fabulous job. He's done it, is this 15 years now, or how long? 10. And he knows what we're talking about. He knows what we're talking about. He's charged at his level by the city council to do what we're asking him to do. You guys work it out. If Bob's happy, I'm probably
What
going to be
else
happy.
can you do to the building? They need an open-air building. They need it so many height. They can't go above a certain height. What else? Can you put a cupola on it? I mean, what are you going to do to it?
Well, you and I aren't licensed architects. He is, so I'd let him figure it out.
I'd rather not throw anything out. I'd rather work with the applicant to make sure that we can work together on it.
Yeah, I think
They've
the,
been in business for years, they want it
If
to
we throw
be.
something out tonight, then you're gonna be stuck
Right.
with it. I think you
We
better.
have parameters to work in there, once we have that in front of us, we're,
So answering your question is, who do I work with? And I want to just reassure you, I've made a motion, like to see that seconded, and hopefully it passes, and want you to hear that we have a lot of confidence, total confidence in Bob. If he's happy with it, he'll speak for you as you come back before us and say this is the best he could do with the building that is approved by council. We get that the building's approved. Don't need to hear that again next month. It's approved. It's got hardships. It's got traffic, cars driving through. We got it. Make it prettier and put some Milton on it.
yeah.
And get metal building off of it. We don't want any more metal buildings in Milton. I don't care if they're in the north end of the city or not. We don't want any more metal buildings.
So what I'm hearing is a metal building with what we've shown here that has better details.
yes.
And the city architect will get behind you and support you because you've been approved by the council. Your variances are all approved. Your building is defined. I'm happy that it's facing long ways, so the minimum side of the building is facing the street forever and ever to protect the view corridor down there, even though it's below grade. We got that. So if the city architect can get some architecture and enhance this metal building that's more of a commercial use in a residential neighborhood, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
And I think the board will ring in when you come back, and we rely on Bob to do that.
Yeah, we do this a lot, so.
So I'm just trying to understand the process. So, Bob, you're going to be providing me with the details, or do I have to hire an architect based
No,
on
I'm
what
gonna
you
work
said?
with you on the details. You and Scott can come in and we'll work together.
Bob's our friend.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
You're in good hands. All right, thank you.
We got a motion. Did we vote on the?
Yeah, we need to vote on the motion on the floor, so, did we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're good. All right, next item is Matilda's revised bathroom design, 850 Hickory Flat Road.
Madam Chairman,
Scott's
members of the
busy.
board, I'm Scott Reed from the Reese Associates doing business 13685 Highway 9, West Georgia. I'm here tonight helping the Potters in their application for the construction of a restroom at the Matilda's music site. They had an original structure put forth, and the cost on the building lets was much more extreme than they were anticipating. So they have came up with an alternative design that they would like you to look at. And so it will be, the structure will have a metal roof to match the roof that's on the hen house. No. The porch is metal. Okay. So, that is
Can I ask a question? Why, is this what we're voting on or looking at or not?
Well, the structure looks like that, but the color of it will be more natural wood and kind of weather.
You're going to look for something more vintage.
Yeah, vintage, like it's been there for years, rather than
So not perfect angles and.
You know, I'm all for you all, and but I don't want to vote to approve something with a drawing that is not going to be what we have. So I'm all about drawings. We all know about all the things we inherited from Fulton County that were not good for us. To vote on this and put this in the file, because people come and go, properties trade, we have nothing here about other than your descriptive, which we can't vote on, in my opinion. So we need to have a drawing that's reflective of what you're going to do.
is it color?
Well, now it's a metal roof, so it isn't this roof, right?
That is not a metal roof, I don't think.
Well, I thought I heard you were going to do a metal roof.
We do want to do that.
Okay, well, this picture shows a shingle roof. So I need a new picture that, and then I'm hearing the wood, this picture's wood is all going away, and I don't know.
No, the wood is, it still will be a wood structure.
But it's not going to be that color. It's not going to be.
That color,
Is it going to be board and batten?
yes.
So if we go out there, it's going to have siding here, and it's going to be board and batten, but with a metal roof.
With a metal roof.
And then what's the color? What's happening with it?
The color will be like an off-white, kind of an antique, white with wood, kind of a weathered wood, on the bottom part here.
But all four sides will be exactly this structure if we vote on this.
Exactly as that is built.
Same windows, same doors, same columns.
Well, the windows we would like to do out of also kind of architectural salvage instead of brand new looking windows.
So the windows are going to change.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could build it exactly like that, but I think it would look better.
I think we prefer you didn't, is the way we're going. I think if it looks like an older building, the idea is that it looks like it's been there forever.
Yeah.
So you reclaim materials, salvage windows, reclaim siding.
And the look that we've got
Going out there, yeah, exactly.
So this really isn't how it will look.
No.
I think that's the big thing.
Yeah,
It's,
because I was like, this doesn't.
in principle, the type of building.
Yeah, it's the type of building, it will be built, according to those plans, but the difference will be, it will look more like, when you see this,
Are you buying this as a kit from?
no, it'll be built
Uh,
from,
Who drew this for you?
the drawings are, but
Who did the drawings?
I bought them online.
I was just wondering if you could, if it's a computer drawing, that somebody could go back in and maybe put a metal roof on it and give us some idea.
This is the bigger picture. Is this a piece of the picture?
There you go.
This is more of the look that we wanted to have. I mean, this isn't it, but this is, it's using, kind of older tarnished metal, weathered wood, recycled windows.
All right, so this really isn't about you all. It's about, here comes a builder and says, here's a building, but I'm not going to build this, but I want you to vote on these pictures I'm giving you. Because this picture is entirely different than this. And so, Bob, I don't want to see things come before me that are not what we're going to do. Because I looked at these since Friday, thought about them, didn't love the colors, really like what you're doing here better than these colors, but this goes into the public's record. So if you sell the project, the park, or the gentleman that was before us flips that house, he said he's flipped 80 houses. We have to assume that's going to happen as a board. So I'd rather you start over. If this is what you want to do, get it defined and write it up so that it can go in the public record that we're going to build this picture with reclaimed windows, a metal roof, and maybe give us some paint chips. We hold these builders accountable to give us paint chips. Our own Parks Department had to come in and give us paint chips tonight on a building that it's the parks. And you should have to do that too. I'm a builder and I have to do it every day. I'm in 10 municipalities. And that's all I ask you to do here, Bob, is why bring me a set of drawings? It's not what's going to be built. I mean, you're showing me a yellow and red building, but this is what's going to show up. I vote for this and I go out there and go, Bob, call code enforcement. This isn't what happened.
We would need some sort of architectural drawings. And we'd have to understand too, right, because these are restrooms. We get into ADA and all the compliance issues and all that. We kind of need to look at all of that, actually.
We will have one ADA bathroom too, so there'll be 3 bathrooms.
Right, but we want to see that all laid out and how that functions with the site and what's currently there. I mean, that's really what our job is, why we're here.
They really didn't know exactly what, and they asked me to help them tonight. I'm going to recommend that they sit down with Bob and get a more true representation of exactly what they're going to build. I apologize if it's not, I was kind of caught flat-footed in this situation.
It's not his fault. Help us out.
It's nobody's fault.
Yeah.
It's just figuring out what we're going to get.
Right,
Yeah.
I recommend to my clients on the front end that a staff meeting is to your benefit, not to your detriment. So,
And by the way, if you're now doing windows, this picture that you're now showing me isn't accurate because you can't have all these cute little windows in here.
Well, I mean, the windows in the drawing would be reclaimed windows, rather than, this is just materials, kind of an example of materials.
I think what he's saying is if those are really bathroom buildings and people are in there using it as a bathroom.
Yeah, you can't have the
and
windows.
You really probably will either have high windows or no windows because
Right.
you're really not going to have windows that people can see through while they're
Exactly.
going in the bathroom. That's what I think he's trying to say.
And so my point is,
We might be
this
able to
is
save you
this
money and do
isn't
no
the,
windows.
this isn't the building, and now I'm thinking this isn't the building either, because it can't have all these windows. So what is the building? Now
I think the concept you got is fine. The look will be good. I think you just need the plan.
devil's in the details, and before she comes back,
And the devil's in the windows in bathrooms. I mean, I mean, you got to think about those windows.
I mean, if you have a men's and women's side, you're going to have 2 doors, not one
Yeah.
door.
And not 4 windows.
And not for women. You probably have 2 doors, right? One's for men,
Right.
one for women.
Exactly, I mean, it would be different.
It would be
absolutely,
different.
Than that in the
Yeah.
final.
I think that's what Mr. Roberts
I'd like
is
to make a
saying.
motion that we love Matilda's, and it's lots of fun. And really, I'd love to have bathrooms so we're not going up to 7 acre and acting like we're getting a table when we're going to the bathroom. And so this is a really needed project.
That's
For
true.
me, I'm older and I need to run to the bathroom before all the shows are over, okay? So, but you got to come in here to an architectural board with some drawings on what you're really going to do. And I think we all support what you're doing.
Well, this was kind
And
of a last-minute idea because the timing is, we're trying to get this done before the first concert. And I think the next design review board meeting is April 14th, which is 2 weeks before our opening. So that was the reason that we're really trying to
Well, then,
get this done without having to go through
okay.
having a whole set of.
all right, since I've been the most
Right.
outspoken, I would tell you, now I'm going to hold you really accountable to getting something good. and that meets architecturally what we want. And what I was
Would you
going to
want to do
say
a
is,
special call meeting?
Yeah,
or-
I would suggest, yes, and we've
We
done this
just-
before,
we've done it
so,
before,
because
not to
there is
slow
a
'em
time
down.
constraint. So if we can get a design together, then we do a special call meeting, and we look at and we take a vote. If people are willing to do that. I am, because they're a business here in the community, and we all
Let's do a
support
special call
them.
meeting. We'll just do it before, we can get it done, right?
Yeah,
But
no, you're
Laura,
a
on
important
this one-
business. Huh?
on this one, I'm willing to talk to Bob here and get what we all want and let Bob go get it done, so we don't have to have a special call meeting.
We still need to do that.
Okay.
It would be, for a final vote, it's preferred to
Okay.
have it in the record.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it's
I
a
don't think
final-
Bob wants it on his
The
shoulders.
final vote, we'll
So-
do a special call, we'll get it
Okay,
back in.
great.
we
Yeah.
can Look at it.
I stand corrected.
Yep.
I mean, it's
See, I
up
was
the
trying to
board.
speed it up, but she's going to speed it up with a special call
and-
meeting.
But
Board.
we appreciate anything to help and to speed it up, so either one.
So we could do it without a special meeting. The whole board needs to agree, but we're missing 2 members, and one is actually an architect, so I would not feel, they're not here to speak on their behalf. So that's why I'm more inclined to go the special meeting route. So I feel more comfortable doing that. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so if somebody can make a motion,
We have a current motion on.
But we do.
the board For the, whatever Charlie wants to make.
so.
I'm going to rescind my motion
Okay.
and ask one of the board members to make a motion that reflects what we're really going to do here.
Okay, would somebody like to make that motion? Or would you like me to?
Go for it.
Okay, I will. All right, so I'm making a motion that we will defer this item and we will call a special meeting upon Bob, our city architect, actually developing a plan with the applicant that they will bring back to the board for a special meeting.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right. Our final case for the evening is Verizon rooftop solar panels. If we could have the applicant come forward and please state your name and address.
Alex Norman, I live not in Belton, I live in Brooklyn, 57 Flushing Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay.
So you'll have to bear with me, I don't have my Verizon counterpart today, he was at a different design review board in New Jersey. But I do know his talking points. So just to introduce the project, Verizon has made a public commitment to have 24 megawatts of on-site solar generation on their real estate across the country. The 123 Verizon Place was identified as one of the facilities that Verizon is investing into for sort of a long-term investment. They see it as part of their plans to consolidate their operations to a number of facilities. So those are the ones we're putting solar on. Thankfully, this is just a rooftop, what we call ballasted rooftop system. Doesn't penetrate the roof, sits up there way down by concrete blocks with an approximate height of about 12 inches off the roof surface. Fortunately, the original plans were for a ground mount and a carport system. So fortunately, after discussion with Sawney Electric, and we can't do much smaller system size, which is entirely on the roof. I have some additional pictures to show the existing conditions of the roof, which was replaced in 2018, and give an idea of what this might look like as far as what these systems typically look like. So I don't know what happened to that. Should have been paying attention. it's there's three separate buildings. They're all built at the same time period, and they all have roof conditions that look essentially like this. Minimum of a 12-inch parapet to upwards of 36-inch parapet wall. This is the shortest parapet wall, which is in between joining built roofs. And I just pulled a couple other pictures of what the racking system looks like. And then also this is a system that we're wrapping up in Tampa right now for Verizon. So it's, anyway, everybody at the local site, there's a lot of Verizon management there who was really excited about the project. Sawney is on board. They're already talking about ribbon cutting ceremonies and all the fun stuff that they do. But yeah, we were looking to build this over the summer, and so for that reason, I wanted to bring it to you for put your eyes on it.
You said there's no roof penetration?
Correct.
How does it adhere?
It doesn't. It's just concrete blocks and it's way down.
Okay.
So the racking companies, they do wind tunnel testing.
Okay.
And I believe, and we go by the codes, and I've talked to roof engineer there. But they go up to 150 miles an hour without penetration sometimes. But down in Tampa, we had to do a bunch.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a very common way. Sometimes we have to redo penetrations just to lighten the weight of the system if the roof structure couldn't hold 5 pounds per square foot.
Gotcha.
So are you guys working with somebody on this, on the solar side? Who's the,
Oh, I work for a company called Distributed Solar Development,
okay,
and I'm essentially a solar developer. And so Verizon is contracted with us as a design professional of record
okay.
to design and build all these solar facilities.
So you guys are the old GE Solar, yeah, I know you guys.
Was a module manufacturer, then became a solar developer, and recently spun out of our own business.
Okay, yep, I'm familiar.
Okay, so I'm just going to have Cody read into the record what the code says in this area, the Deerfield Farm-Based Code, when it comes to solar panels, so that the board is aware of what the code requirement would be, and then to ensure that we're meeting that requirement.
All right, so Deerfield Form-Based Code 4.18.7C2, rooftop solar collectors, skylights, and other potentially reflective rooftop building elements shall be designed and installed in a manner that prevents reflective glare and obstruction of views of views of other sites and structures. Said elements shall also be screened from view from all sides. So I believe the applicant here is showing that what's the angle that it's going to be?
So it's a 5-degree angle of the modules, which is very low, so it's essentially flat, plus whatever the crickets of the slope of the roof kind of add. But the end result is about 12 inches.
And the parapet walls?
And the parapet walls vary between 1 foot and 3 feet, and they are set back a minimum of 6 feet from the roof edge. And also you can see from these photographs, there's tall trees that surround these buildings on all sides, which is not great for solar production, but Verizon is motivated.
This one's over my head.
Yeah, I think we have to make sure that they're not visible.
Yeah.
And
I
the
mean,
parapet wall would have to be higher than the solar panel. So you can't have a situation where the parapet wall is less in height than the solar panel, because then you would
I think they're saying that the panels sit within the roof structure away from the parapet wall as
Right.
well.
That's,
So that there's no angle of sight from the ground, is that right? So you really can't see these things unless you're in a helicopter.
Exactly, yeah, they're
I think it's a cool plan. It's,
45.
I like it.
Yeah.
We got to go there. Have to.
So they'd be way up there.
It's hard to see these buildings anyway. I mean, they're
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, frankly,
Really?
you know,
I think it's a
We've put satellite dishes on these, and you can't tell.
you can't see them, no, and I've done business with Verizon, and I've been to these buildings, and It actually looks better with the solar than what's on there because it's kind of pretty boring, nothing anyway. So, and I'm a big supporter of going solar. I think our city and our state has to get there. We are very far behind a lot of other states.
Sustainability is important today.
Yeah. So I mean, Verizon could be on the cusp, cutting edge for Georgia actually by doing this.
We're actually doing carports on their Alpharetta site.
Yeah.
That's a large carport system in both Georgia Power and in Swanee. They don't credit you for any excess power you generate. So it is, we consider them to be a little bit behind, and Verizon is absolutely forcing that.
That's crazy. Wow. That's got it.
Because like I said,
That's good.
they wanted to go as big as possible. They wanted to go 3 times the size of this, but we just realized it wasn't really the right fit for this property.
Yeah.
Covering every square inch is just not.
Yeah.
Okay, so just for the record for this board tonight on this vote, the panels would be a maximum of 12 inches high, and the minimum height of the parapet surrounding on all sides would be, minimum height is 12 inches. So theoretically, it wouldn't be higher than the parapet, right? Okay.
Yeah. It sounds like it's going to be
It's
right
going to
under
be
the-
screened.
I thought some of the parapets in these pictures we have are like 6 inches tall.
And that's on the adjoining, when they adjoin to the other roofs, around the exterior walls, it's greater.
All 12 inches.
Right. That was where was that picture? It was right back here. Yeah, it was the 2 joining buildings. It was between the 2, not on the outer side.
He had it. It wasn't in the packet. Yeah, it was one he had.
Oh, it was? Okay. Oh, I can see it though, right there. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's
Okay.
good.
I think, do we need a vote?
Yeah, if there aren't any questions, are there any questions from the board, any additional questions? And I don't see any public out there, so I think we need to make a motion for a vote.
Motion to approve the installation of the solar panels.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck. It's great.
We got to close it out.
Good to see some solar here.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
That's a good thing.
It is.
You're on the 3.
I'm
Take it on in.
brother-in-law
Where do these go?
Cody.
out in California.
Alex,
Cost to come down for consumers, the more it will be.
We're done. You don't need to close.
we still have,
All right, buddy.
we still have 2 items.
Oh, I'm sorry. 2 more items.
We still have 2
Sorry,
wait.
2 more
things
items.
we gotta talk, or we just got an old business and then officially,
Yeah, sorry.
Adjourn.
That's my fault.
Okay.
no,
We got
no worries.
excited.
Come on back.
No worries.
New chair.
Not so fast. All right. Cody.
Yes, so we moved new business before demo, so there's no other new business.
Right.
Old business, we have nothing to discuss. Still, Lee, I'm sorry I didn't reply to your email. If there's sometime this week you want to come in, we can sit down.
Next week will be better.
Next
but
week?
We can definitely do it.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
And also, the other board, since it's the beginning of the year, if you do want training, we can do one before a scheduled meeting. I'll have the city attorney come in, or we can do a presentation for form-based code areas, kind of some code. Majority of what you would see, if that's something you would like us to do, just let me know.
We have a full Saturday session. Does that sound good with everybody?
Oh, yeah.
Which resort? Where's the city sending us?
We did it on a
Yeah, I
Saturday.
think we did, right?
Yeah, we did. We did it with the plan.
We did it with
No,
the boards.
we did it with the planning commission.
Yeah, we did.
Which
Planning
actually is
commission.
not a bad idea because we do have a lot of crossover
Yeah.
with them and the BZA. There was a lot of integrated
I'd love to have
questions.
something on the calendar. I mean, I would be for it.
I found it extremely helpful when I
Brady, you opened
started.
up a can of worms.
See, we were leaving. Now
Let's get some.
I mean,
Yeah,
so,
I'll reach out to everybody on what your views are. Also,
I'm going to vote for the majority. So you never can have too much education
I know.
and interaction with our codes. So, hey, I'm all for it too.
Also, with your city emails, have any of y'all had any problems logging on to those?
Nope,
Nope. Okay, I'm just
mine works.
wanted to make sure. So besides that, we have no old business, any other, and then, Lauren, you can adjourn.
I just have one comment, Bob, and it's going to go. Is that this didn't come back separately to the design review board. I don't understand why council voted on that piece before us. I understand there were variances. I get that. And I understand there was one regarding the variance, but to go ahead and totally, tell them how to build something, actually, I think that was the wrong move.
I don't think they did. That's where Scott was disagreeing with me, but I think what they did was they said, okay, we'll approve some variances, but it's still subject to DRB approval. Just because you say you don't have to have board and batten and you can have metal rib, doesn't mean that the way they apply the metal rib is not subject to DRB approval. It just says you're allowed now to use metal rib. They could put some board and batten and some metal rib. It's just allowing the use of metal rib. Now, but
They
again,
certainly
it has to
didn't
go
say
back to DRB to say, is it looking the way we want it to look? The council did not say we're going to look at this and we're approving the architecture. They said go back to DRB.
And they didn't say that we couldn't get your opinion or Tim's opinion and get some brackets on there.
Right.
Or some
I mean,
additional.
there is
They
other things that
approved
need
The
to be
one
done.
variance that I still am a little bit miffed on is, I mean, yes, I remember us going through all this, but I don't remember a variance for a metal roof. I think we would have been
Metal roof or metal siding?
any of it.
Yeah, I don't either.
That part, we would have said, no, we'll approve all of it except that.
Right.
Because I know us, I know how we work. So
I totally agree with you. We never approved.
and we've done that before. Where we say we will send to the BZA all these variances except not that one. Right. That is for us. We have code, and we are required to enforce the code. So that's the problem. So I would like for you to look at that when you talk to them.
Again, just because even if it does say, okay, you're allowed to use this as a building material, doesn't mean that this board has to approve it.
Or that it's 100% of the exterior skin.
Or if it's 100%, it could be just, okay, it is an approved material. The council will say, okay, fine, we're giving you a variance, but it's still subject to DRB approval. Otherwise, why is it back here? That's
Right,
what
yeah,
said.
I would.
Why would something come back here? It's not just procedurally. They're coming back to say, is this board happy with it? This board is tasked with making sure that the architecture is compliant with Milton's standards.
Yeah, now, if we knew that potentially could be approved as a zoning variance by the BZA, we go, okay, yeah, sure, and we gave you comments, and that's fine and good. But I don't think it is the responsibility of BZA or the Planning Commission or City Council to start making changes to what we enforce and vote on. I disagree with that strongly. And then, so that basically X's us out. So then why are we here? And I don't think any of us care to waste our time because we're volunteers. So,
but again, I think it's.
I don't think it's in the city's best interest to do that.
If they give a variance and say you are allowed to use this building material, but it doesn't mean that it has to be the entire wall. Or maybe you look at it and say, okay, great, you got a variance to allow it, but we don't want it. I mean, I'm just saying,
Laura, also,
but I don't even like the thought that that somebody else is talking about a material variance, because how do you even understand what that does from an architectural or review perspective? That's where I disagree, because that can get us into trouble. Okay. Back to Charlie's point is now we've set this precedent. And we've seen this stuff happen before.
Yeah, that's true.
We got into this really good habit of saying, no, we're not doing that. And so I don't want to go backwards. So I guess what I I don't know, do I need to make sure our city council members are, let's not cross the line. I mean,
Maybe we need to.
we're here for a reason, and let's make sure we follow process and code, which is what we're all about here.
I
So,
totally agree. And I would, Scott's an assertive guy, a really smart guy, and he's up there to get his client what they want. So are we sure of did Cody, while we're doing that debate, look it up, and did council really approve?
right.
Or is it like Laura's saying or Bob's saying, they just sort of said metal siding is okay to use?
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't say 100% of the building. I would like for you to send us all what council really said on this case.
Yeah.
Before
We have to go
Laura,
back and
before you go fall on the sword, you ought to know what, and it may not be what Scott said.
Right, and we just need to clarify that and
I agree.
make sure it's not.
I want to see what council said, and I want to read the words in the record. And if you'd send us that, then
Yeah.
you can do it too, and 3 of them I want to go talk to. I'm having dinner Thursday night with 4 of them. So I'm going to see them Thursday night, so if you could do it tomorrow before Thursday, I'll take it with me to the meeting and say, when did you start approving exteriors?
But just for the record, if there's 7 and you go to dinner with 4, that would constitute a quorum.
Yes, you
So
So
be-
Joe,
better be-
Laura,
Be
Hayden.
careful.
Okay, maybe there's 3.
There's 3. Three, I'm sorry, I'm just a fanatic.
Good point.
3 you're allowed to do, don't do 4.
Yeah, no,
'cause
it's
they'll
Laura,
claim that
Joe.
you had a- Okay.
Yeah, because we're on
Hey.
public
I'm always
record,
worried
and the
about
city
quorums.
attorney, he'll be really not happy about that.
Thank you for, I always love you correcting and keeping me
Well, I just
on the
want to
straight
make
and
sure
narrow.
people don't think that you're doing 4.
Oh, yeah,
Because it's
we'll get in trouble for it.
So,
We'll get sued.
I think we just, again, as we circle this, I just have a feeling that the council didn't really approve this, and Scott's making that an assertive, smart guy, helping his client. I have a feeling when we read it, the council really didn't say, you can use this on your building, and I want to see comma, and that's all you have to have.
Yeah, we
You
just,
can have a-
we just need to clarify.
An
that.
I don't
unattractive,
think it says that either. I think it just says.
I
you're allowed
would
to
be
use it as a
surprised. I
building
haven't seen
material.
that before. I mean, really, without it, number one, us giving information to the BZA or us providing information to the Planning Commission, and we said these 3 things, and there was a reason why we said we could switch out that particular material. That's the only way I know, and that's the only way I've seen it. I've never seen it where they just accept. The one case was Highway 9, 5 acres, where they went off on their own and put together their own requirements for that project.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, well,
so
yeah, how could I
you'll
forget?
send us that before, you'll get that to us tomorrow.
That tomorrow.
And that's going to be very enlightening. And Laura, I agree with everything you said. Plus, this is also creating a hardship of confusion for our customer.
It is.
Which is the businessman.
Yeah.
And he thinks he got something, and now all of a sudden, we want to
need
put
to
a lot of
sign that.
architecture on it. So it's unfair to him, too.
I agree.
That, he thinks he got approval for his building. And again, I want to close, everything Laura said, I agree. And I want to keep saying, if we set precedents and we take compromises, then the next person that comes before us can say, he built this minimal metal siding, bar joist building, and that's not where Milton wants to go. And so setting precedents worries me, because legally, if we approve it for them, we should be approving it for everybody.
We're stuck,
Rights are rights.
yeah.
And so we have to set a standard. That's why we are a board, tying into everything Laura said. That's why we're sitting here, to enforce or to ask for the level of quality that we all want. And we work hard every month to get. And I think it's good to send signals to the professionals like Scott that are doing a lot of this business, that this is how we feel about it. So don't come in here. I like that Scott on Matilda's at the end was kind of laughing, saying, well, I think we should defer. And he clearly knew no plans was not going to get approved. And if we, again, set a precedent that you can show us a yellow and red building, but you're going to build something else, what precedent does that send to the community?
Well, And that's very unlike Scott. He usually is the most prepared of anyone, comes in here and we have everything we usually need on a case.
You said it was an 11th hour deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was
And
helping,
you
so
could
we
tell.
agree with that.
So,
But it was an interesting night with these various problems. And it was interesting on all the work we had to do to keep getting things where we wanted. You know, the carport's an interesting precedent and study on how we're going to solve that problem, how you're going to work toward it, and Matilda's, and then the council approving architecture. So some very interesting cases tonight.
Just a question. Do we have access online to past meeting minutes?
So, something with our IT, there is something on that, the city clerk, where you can look at the past meeting minutes. There's something that they have to do to unlock that. I've been preaching for about the past 6 months to get that unlocked, but I will have that available to you.
I don't save all this, and sometimes it's before my time, but, I'd love to be able to refresh my memory on some.
Oh, yeah. I'll make that a little note of that.
you
'Cause I've been
can
trying
go
to-
watch our meeting also online.
Yeah, it's always
It's
posted
taped.
before lunch of the next
I
day.
sometimes go back, I really hate to watch myself, but if I forgot something, I usually will go back and went, oh, yeah, that's
I
right.
knew it was taped. I was glad Bob
I don't like to remind
confirmed that I wasn't thinking I was doing something I'm not doing. Huh?
You were good.
So we adjourned.
It's all right.